Thank you Sakurako and Tokyo Treat for sponsoring this video. Language learning is a very long and tough process, and during the process, most of us feel really unmotivated and feel like we're lost and alone in this process. But today we're going to talk about some methods to make learning Japanese much fun, which is using anime. I feel like majority of the people want to learn Japanese because of the Japanese culture or anime or Japanese dramas. And today I'm gonna recommend you guys 10 animes that you can use to learn Japanese. So you might think, can't I not just watch a random anime that I found and learn Japanese from that? The thing when it comes to animes is that depending on the category of the anime, they might use a bit of different Japanese, especially on action and shonen type of animes. Usually, the language is a bit different than the daily language that is used in Japan. So it is important to pick an anime that's kind of more close to daily conversation and more natural Japanese. My anime recommendations will be based on the relativeness to the daily language so that you can use anime to practice some phrases or maybe some vocabularies. So let's get started. Why to use animes when learning Japanese? Of course, you can use textbooks or language classes or anything that is more traditional way of learning a language, that is for sure. However, I feel like most of the textbooks are outdated, and also languages courses really focus on how to talk formally and how to talk grammatically correctly. But that is not really the case in daily language, We use some slangs, we maybe ignore some grammar rules, and we use some phrases that are not really formal and that are not really taught in those language classes and in textbooks. So animes and Japanese dramas or any TV shows can come really handy when it comes to learning those type of phrases and those type of vocabularies. And it is also a really fun way to learn a language. When it comes to the method using animes, I would highly recommend checking out this video where I explain every single step in detail how to learn Japanese while watching anime. So you can check out this video right here. Okay, so now let's talk about my anime recommendations. Before moving to the anime recommendations, I would like to introduce today's sponsors Sakurako and Tokyo Treat. Sakurako and Tokyo Treat, both of them are monthly Japanese subscription box where they send you snacks with different themes every month. Not only you can enjoy different snacks, but you can also learn about the Japanese culture from the very informative Japanese cultural booklet that they provide. For example, this month on Tokyo Treat, they have this whole booklet about all of the snacks included. They also listed the ingredients and also explained about each snack. And also, as you can see, there is an explanation about the Japanese culture and, about the foods that we eat or about the events that we have going in Japan. And also in Sakurako's booklet, as you can see, not only you can taste the snacks, but you can also learn about the snacks background, about the different areas each month, and with the different themes, you can explore the Japan while enjoying snacks from your home. I was having Sugoi Summer box from Tokyo Treat and Okinawa Retreat box from Sakurako. If you can't decide which box to get, here is a quick introduction. Tokyo Treat is the latest exclusive and seasonal Japanese snacks, and in Sakurako boxes, they're more traditional, authentic, and artisan Japanese snacks. So if you're somebody who would like to experience the latest cultures or latest snacks from Japan, and if you're interested in more modern Japan, I would recommend you do Tokyo Treat box. And if you're somebody who's interested in Japanese culture and history about the more traditional Japanese culture, I would recommend you the Sakurako box. Or you can of course get both of them with my discount using the link and code down in the description below. These boxes are perfect to snack while watching anime and learning Japanese language and also experience the Japanese culture. Thank you Sakurako and Tokyo Treat for sponsoring this video. The first one is Blue Period. Actually, this is a very recent anime and an anime that I really truly love. This anime is about a guy who was good at everything in his life and he couldn't find his passion really. And one day, he discovers one painting at his school and then he draws something, and from that art he gets really inspired by it and joins to the art club. He could really do anything that he wanted to do, he was good in sports, he was really acing his exams, and his school teacher was recommending him to go to a really academic, really good university, but he gets inspired from the art and he wasn't really feeling a spark in his life, and then he joins the art club. From there, the story follows how he tries to enter one of the hardest universities to get in Japan, which is Tokyo University of Art. So the reason why I like it is that first thing first, all of them use daily languages, and since it's a really new and recent anime, the conversation and the way they speak is like really current Japan. So you would be able to follow what current Japanese young people are speaking or how they're speaking. And also the casual conversation between the friend groups, and also like between the older people, and more like formal communication will also allow you to learn Japanese. And not only that, you can also learn about the art and behind scenes of art while watching the anime, so I would highly recommend. Okay, so the second anime recommendation is Your Lie in April. Okay, so what it's about: after the death of his mother, former piano prodigy Kosei becomes unable to hear the sound of his piano. A meeting with a girl, Kaori, a free-spirited violinist, pursues him to be her accompanist, and he eventually falls in love with her. So this anime also uses informal Japanese language. Unlike a lot of like seinen TV shows or series, you won't find a lot of profanies or like weird slangs. For example, like JoJo. Even though I really love JoJo, I would not recommend JoJo for learning languages, to be honest. The vocabularies for this series really focuses on daily life and also on music. So if you're interested in music and also in Japanese language, you could watch something that you're interested in. So my another anime recommendation is Doraemon. I literally grew up watching this. So it's about Nobita, who is like the main character, Japanese boy who is really lazy, weak, and also unlucky. And following a series of unfortunate events in the future, his great-great-son sends a robot cat named Doraemon back to past to take care of Nobita. And Doraemon has a lot of goodies from future, which allows to kind of save Nobita's daily life. The thing that I really like about this anime is that first thing first, it is really creative. And since the anime is designed for kids, the vocabularies that they use is really easy to follow. And also each episode is not really tied to the other episodes, so you can watch one by one and you do not need to like really follow the series. You can watch a random kind of episode and you are good to go. Another anime recommendation is Haikyuu. You guys probably know this, but this is an anime about like volleyball. Despite his short height, he joins the volleyball club and he doesn't play as a libero, which is the position short people usually play. And the story goes around this guy joining to a volleyball club and about the volleyball tournaments and all about this. And the great thing about this anime is that first thing first, if you like sports, if you like volleyball, and if you like a more comedy type of an anime which goes around the young guys who are playing volleyball, and at the same time you can really feel the athleticism. It goes around their mindset and how they grow as a person. So if you're somebody who's interested in sports, I would recommend Haikyuu. If you love shonen animes and if you also love comedy type of animes, anime I can recommend is Sket Dance. Basically, Sket Dance is about 3 high school students belonging in a school club called Sket Dance. They dedicate their spare time to do whatever people need to do. So when people need some sort of a help, they would come to this club and require their help, and they would help it, and the story goes around that. And every time the requirements are really strange and kind of really funny, and each character is really unique and they have a very like different background story. So following this up, and since every single episode is so fun to watch, I think it is really easy to follow up. And each character is so funny, so I would really recommend. Another comedy classic is Gintama. I think a lot of people know Gintama. The anime itself is supposedly goes in Edo period, but it's actually not really related to Edo. But if you would like to kind of feel the little bit of Japanese cultural bits while enjoying a comedy, and it's also a type of anime that each episode is not really related to each other, so you can, after learning about the really basics of the anime, like the really background information about the anime, you can watch a random episode, and it is really fun and comic. And you can also learn a bit about the history of Japan, like Edo time, but it's not really like deep, to be honest. It is just like a basic information, but I feel like it is fun to see people dressed in that way, and then like the comedy goes around. And I feel like you would be more able to understand the Japanese humor if you watch Gintama. and it is one of the really loved and popular animes in Japan, and my brother and I, we also enjoy it. So if you're somebody who loves comedy, kind of want to see the little bit of cultural background of Japan and want to follow anime series that is not really to each other and also has a lot of episodes, Gintama will be a great choice. So another recommendation is Detective Conan. This is also a shonen anime series which goes around the high school detective who is the main character, who was transformed into a child while investigating a mysterious organization and generally solved a multitude of cases by impersonating his childhood's best friend, fathers, and various other characters. If you are somebody who enjoys watching detective type of series or animes, I think this anime is for you. So usually 2 to 3 episodes are about one case that happened and they're like trying to solve it. The main focus will not be really learning the language, but also you can really focus on the anime and you can really get involved in the process. Okay, so another one which is one of my favorite is Death Note. I feel like if you love anime, you might have already watched Death Note, but it's basically about a high school boy who is really successful in anything. He's looks wise, everything wise, he's perfect, but he is so bored of this world. One day, literally a death note falls from the sky. You can kill somebody and also the reason why they die on a notebook, and it will happen. With this notebook, Yagami Raito, who is the main character, decides to create a new world and he decides to become the god of the new world. So he decides to kill people who only harmed other people, and in this way he's gonna create a new world which people are really doing their best, trying to be their best. And the story evolves around this creating the new world, but of course the police gets involved in, and FBI type of groups are trying to find who this person is and trying to kind of like arrest him and all that. So if you're somebody who is more upper level in Japanese, I think Death Note is a good to go. I don't really recommend to total beginners Death Note because I feel like the sentence is a bit more complicated compared to other animes that I recommended. So the another anime recommendation, I feel like it's really underrated, is that The Disastrous Life of Saikikuso no Sainan. The main character has superpower, and not only one, he has a multiple superpowers, but he wants to live a very quiet, normal high school life, but people around him stop him to live that, and every single day he is involved in some sort of a drama, and his character is so cold, and it is really also comedy anime. Here you can really learn the Japanese humor. Let me explain. There is something called manzai. Manzai is basically a traditional style of comedy in Japanese culture, comparable to double act comedy or stand-up comedy. Manzai usually involves 2 performers called boke and tsukomi. So boke is a type of person who would say silly things or do silly things, and tsukomi is type of person who would make fun of it. This conversation, this performance is called manzai, and they literally put this manzai into this anime, and kind of like the comedy structure goes around this Japanese traditional comedy style. So if you're somebody who would like to understand Japanese humor, who enjoys like superpowers type of animes, Saikikuso no Sainan is a good to go. So the last anime I recommend is The Promised Neverland. This series basically is about children who grew up in orphanage, but one day they discovered that this orphanage is not something normal. They discover some creepy things about this orphanage and they try to escape from this orphanage. The thing about this anime is that even though the drawing is really cute, actually the story itself is really scary and creepy, and whenever I watch this anime, I make sure that I don't watch it alone at night because it just scares me so much. It's actually not that really scary, but it's a bit creepy story and it is really easy to follow in my opinion. And even though if you don't like enjoy animes, I think you can give a try to this anime. The Promised Neverland presents a different version of the horror anime show that outsiders may be familiar with, one that prioritizes an emotional character-driven story over gore or jump scares while still offering plenty of disturbing imaginary and a creeping atmosphere that is sustained throughout the entire first season. Whether this is your first foray into a horror anime or you're looking for a show that subverts expectations for the genre, this show is the perfect way to start the Halloween season, or something if you want to watch like horror. So if you're interested in horror animes, or if you're new to horror animes, I never watched horror type of things. I always hated horror films or animes, but this anime is so good. Even me, who doesn't enjoy horror animes, can easily follow and enjoyed it, so I highly recommend. Okay, so those were my anime recommendations. If you have other anime recommendations, drop them down below. And thank you Sakurako and Tokyo Treat for sponsoring this video. So see you guys in my next video.